All right, guys, today we're reading this story, reading this book, If I Lived Alone by Michaela Muntan, illustrated by Carol Nicholas. Very cool 40-year-old Sesame Street Muppet books that we're reading. This is where I live. My mommy and daddy live here. My big sister, Frida, and little brother, Roger, live here. Sometimes it's noisy in my house. Sometimes it's crowded in my house, people waiting to use the bathroom. If you have a family, it's pretty much inevitably going to be crowded at some point. Sometimes I have to be quiet because Roger is asleep. Baby brother Roger. Sometimes I wish I lived alone. If I lived alone, I could have a room all to myself and everything in it would be mine. I could sit quietly all by myself, or I could make as much noise as I wanted whenever I wanted to. Sounds good, right? She's labeling everything. All mine, my wall, my chair, mine, my curtain, my window, my bed, keep off my blanket, my floor, my rug, mine, mine, mine. That's what she's thinking about. Because she has to share everything with her little brother and her family. But if I lived alone, I wouldn't have anyone to talk to when it rains and thunders. Thunder, thunder. If I lived alone, I could eat chocolate ice cream for breakfast, vanilla ice cream for lunch, and strawberry ice cream for dinner. And I could eat as much as I wanted. But if I lived alone, I wouldn't get to have any of Daddy's super duper flip flop flapjack pancakes. Yum, yum, yummy. Look at that. She's got a little short stack going on there. Yummy. She definitely would miss that in those breakfasts that her dad makes. If I lived alone, I wouldn't have to share my toys and books. They would all be hers. But if I lived alone, who would read to me? Big storybook. Who would read the big storybook? Because Mommy wouldn't be there. If I lived alone, I could stay up as late as I wanted to. But if I lived alone, who would hug me and kiss me and tuck me into bed? If I lived alone, I wouldn't have to help set the table, or pick up my toys, or do anything I didn't want to do. Wouldn't have to do all that stuff, no chores, woohoo! But if I lived alone, who would help me tie my shoelaces? And who would put a bandage on my knee if I fell down? If I lived alone, who would play baseball with Daddy? Who would help him weed the garden? If I lived alone, who would help Mommy with her sculpture? Who would talk to her when she takes Roger for a walk? Who would talk to her? It's a good question. If I lived alone, who would listen to Freda's secrets? Who would share Roger's crackers? I guess I can't live alone because if I lived alone, everyone would be lonely. She doesn't talk about her being lonely, but she talks about everybody else being lonely. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. Another story in the books, as they say, guys. Remember, sometimes new solutions bring new problems. So think about that when you think about the grass being greener on the other side. Until next time, keep on reading and keep on being curious.